Hi, this is Tutor Buxton, a trained professional in quant surveying. This channel is called Construction Quant Surveying Tutoring Channel, where you get to learn construction, especially quant surveying, in aspects that are unique, in aspects that are more clear, and definitely in ways that are easier to understand. When you're catching this channel for the first time, then I would urge you to make a subscription. And if you're a member of this channel, a returning member, then I want to say thank you. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, please make a subscription, because from this point going forward, you don't want to miss the videos that are going to be coming through from this channel. Here we focus on teaching construction, and especially majorly on quant surveying. And from the presentations that we've been having, we started from explanations with the rules that are available, especially on the standard methods of measurements. Then we've been doing so and moving forward, started with the basics, which are the basic drawings, the basic plans, and then we've been going on, and today we are going to see other more items concerning construction, or the substructure works that we've been working on. So we have the plan that we've been using here, and this plan, and we also have an explained taking off list that we've also been referring to. So from the taking off list, we summarize the items that are available, and then we also did from the items that are there, we also able to list the rules that are applicable for them, and of course the specifications which are necessary for us to make the descriptions. In our today's session, I would like us to go through what we call from the previous work. We have covered quite a number of items from this list, and those ones, the ones that I've covered, include the ones that are made, the ones that are ticked, including the cutting trees, site clearance, oversight excavation, up to the point of okay, we've also done concrete blinding and concrete footing. So for this session, I would like us to cover the next items, and that include the concrete slab. We are also going to cover the BRC, DPM, and if time allows, we'll also cover formwork as well to the sides of footing. So that is the plan for our session today, and we'll move straight to doing the same so that we don't waste any time, as it should be. So straight on, we'll be going straight to concrete slab. So that is what we need to cover for our session today. So for the concrete slab, of course, our reference plan has always been this, and this is the one that we will always keep referring to until we are finished. We've finished with the basic items before we go to more complex plans. So that said, from these rules, these rules are the ones that have been guiding us moving forward in all that we are doing. These rules, we apply them, and for the concrete slab, you can see it's done in square meters, and if you need the reference for that particular rule, then you go to rule number F7 in the standard methods of measurements. So having known the unit in which you are going to measure the item that you are looking for, then it's always easier for you to trace the dimensions that you need, and even easier for you now to get what exactly you are looking for. So once you've noted that, then we go straight on. Normally, it's important that we see the coverage in terms of that particular slab, where exactly it is going to be laid, so that you know which dimensions you need to have down, so that you have your area. And that is why I always show using an image or a site that is going on, so that you can see, if you're talking about a plan, if you're talking about the slab, then what exactly do you need to look for in terms of the area. So let's just have a look at a typical image that is showing you the slab, how it has been laid, and how exactly you will arrive at the square meters that you are looking for. So looking into the typical image, you can see that of course, after you've done the filling and so on, which you will also come and see later in a short while, Then you notice that you'll do the other items, for instance the DPM, that polythene sheeting, the BRC, that we're also going to look into how to do the estimation for in this particular session. Then you will follow with now casting the slab, which is of interest for this moment. So this is how the slab is looking like. And of course, for you to just notice how the scope or the span in which you are going to use, then you can see the foundation plan, the one that my cursor is moving on. That is the foundation wall. Okay, so for that particular foundation wall, the concrete slab is always cast until the end at the external face of that foundation wall. Okay, so these are very, very crucial concepts that if you understand, then it will be easier for you to understand also how to estimate these particular items. Being that you've now known the extent to which the slab is going to be placed, and therefore you can easily get now your dimensions in terms of the length and the width and so on, for you to get the area of the slab. So that is the explanation and the typical illustration that I would urge that you have a look at. So once you've noted that, then it's the next step now is for us to get the length and the width for this particular plan. Okay, so talking of which, then you've now noted that what we'll do is to get this particular area, but then you notice that our plan is not a regular shape, okay, or a regular layout, and therefore we'll have to do our plan in a way that it's easier for us to you can subdivide the plan into smaller sections, okay, in a way that is more convenient for you. So it's not always a must that you have to do this plan in this particular way. So whichever way that you feel it's suitable, as long as all the items that are available or all the areas that should be taken care of are considered in that particular plan in the way in which you've done it. So what we'll do for this particular plan, I would suggest that we take it in this particular manner. So first of all, we can take this lower part. We can consider this lower part. Okay, as long as you can easily get the dimensions without any struggle, then you'd rather pick that particular way. So once you've subdivided, for this case we'll consider taking the lower portion first as area 1, and then we'll also consider taking the next portion to be from this part here. Of course, you remember that they are taken from the faces of the external foundation wall for the area of the slabs. Okay, then the next portion would be this one from this point here. Okay, so once you have considered it in that manner, then you shall have gotten the area for all the portions that are in this particular plan. Okay, so we'll consider this as 1, we'll consider that as 2, and then we'll consider that as 3. So the only assignment now is for us to get those dimensions. So of course they are here, we just need to interpret them and get length and the width and so on. Okay, so let's get to work now. So once we've identified the items or the sections that we need to measure, then we'll start with the portion 1, and from the section 1, what you can see are for us to get the length. So that is what we do first. We get the length of that particular area. So the length would be length therefore is equals to, so we'll take it from the external faces of the wall, that is the rule, so that we have it comprehensively into place. So it will be 0.20, then we add 10.80, then we add 0.20, and then 5.60 and 0.20. okay, So of course, as usual, you have to make sure that your work is properly arranged at all times. So after you've done that, then you properly underline. After you've underlined, you now get to add the items that you have up there, and that include 0.2, that is 11, 11.2, 16.8, that is 17.00. okay, so that is what we have. So it's 17.00 is the length. It's the length for the section A, section 1. Okay, then you get the width. Of course, the width you just maintain the same way in which you've done for the other one. You don't change, so that you do your work in a more organized way and consistent. Okay, so the width in this case is going to be, so let's calculate that. Width is therefore going to be 0.2 plus 4.7 plus 0.20. so just take note of those particular areas that are available. So that is 0.20, then 4.70, then 0.20. so you do the estimation, you add those ones which are there, and what you get, that is 4.9, that is 5.10. okay, so you note 5.10 as the width for portion 1. okay, so once we have those two, then we go to the third part. okay, so this is part 1. That is part 1. So the next assignment is now to do get the dimensions for part 2. okay, so for the part 2, let's see what we have. For part 2, the length, of course I mentioned that the length is normally the longer part, so there is never a particular way that you have to make this the length, you have to make this the width. The longer portion of your plan becomes your length, and then the shorter part becomes your width. That is the rule. There is nothing that is a must that you have to do it in a particular way. okay, so as long as you've considered that reference, then that is the right thing to do. So we move on. This is now part 2. Yes, for the part 2, we go on and see what we have to enter. So for the length is going to be on the longer part, and the longer part is if I just zoom it in a bit so that it's clear, then it will be better. So from what we have here, it's from this portion up to the top of this. okay, from that point to this other part, when you look at the dots that I've made. So what you do, you get 3.60, then you add 0.2. so let's get to input our dimensions. So it's 3.60. yeah, of course you are starting it from this point up here, 3.60, then you do 0.20, then you do 2.30, then you do 0.20. you must make sure that all those dimensions are from the external faces of the foundation walling. So that is the main item there to consider. So you add this 3.6, that is 3.8, that is 6.1, 6.3. okay, that should be 6.3 as the length. So we enter the 6.30 at that point. okay, so we already have a length of part 2. Then we go on, and now the focus is to get the width of that very part 2. And the width, you can see it from the plan. okay, so the plan is quite clear. It can show you what you need to do, or how you need to get that particular length. So our work here is just to enter those dimensions. So this was part 2, and we did what we call the length. Okay, and then now we are still in part 2, and we are doing what we call the width. So for the width, we add it from the external faces of the foundation walling. That is the key item to always remember. Okay, so we do 0.20, and then we add 5.60, and then we add 0.20. So once we have that, as usual, always keep your work neat. I'll emphasize that because your presentation is as good as how you'd want, or the marks that you'd wish to get when you're doing this for, say, exam purposes, or you're just doing it for presentation sort of. It's important that you present yourself very, very well before your audience. So 0.20 plus that is 5 point, that should be 6.00, and that becomes now your width for part 2. So far so good. We've calculated the two parts, part 1 and part 2. This is part 2. Okay, of course it's indicated there. Then the next part that we should calculate is now part 3. Okay, and for part 3, then the same approach that we've done for the two other parts is what is going to be maintained here. Your work is simply to consider which is the length for this particular plan, the longer one, and which is the width, the shorter one. Once you have that, then you are good to go. Moving on, this is now part 3 in regard to our plan, how we subdivided it. And what we need to have here is the length first. Of course, as usual, try to calculate the length. So for the length, what do we have? We have a 7.8, and that is what I can see from up there. And okay, let me just rub off that. So we have the 7.8 because we are taking it from the faces of external wall. Okay, so our length for that matter is 0.20. You add them just keenly, then you add 7.80, and then we do 0.20. So once you have those three items, then you are good. You just add them properly, underline at all times, and then you continue. So when you do that, that should be 8.20. Okay, 8.20 as the length. So once you have that, never forget to remain very, very neat and tidy in your presentation. Okay, so we go on and get the width of this particular plan. And what do we have as the width? 0.2 plus 3.6, because we won't be going to beyond this internal wall, the face of the internal wall. And the reason is, for part 1 we had calculated for the width of part 1 was going beyond that particular wall. So for the one above, that is part 3, it's simply going to be 0.2 plus 3.6. okay, so that is what you need to consider. So 0.20, and then we add 3.60. okay, that should give you 3.8. So once you have 3.8 as the width, then now you can confidently say that all the parts that you needed are complete. Okay, so that is 3.80. So all the areas that you wanted, according to the way you subdivided them. So this is part 3, and this is part 1, this is part 2. Okay, so it means when you combine all these areas, then you can get the total area for your slab in this case. Okay, so we can just now enter our dimensions as we should. We just enter them. We enter our dimensions here as usual. That is the first portion is 17.00, and then the width is 5.10. okay, That is part 1. Then part 2 is 6.30, and then 6.00, and then part 3 is 8.20 and 3.80. Okay, so that brings you now to your dimensions properly indicated. And then of course I always repeat that you make sure that when you're using the traditional dimension papers as these, then you have to properly underline your items, and this signifies that you are doing them in square meters. So once you've entered the items which are making up a unit that you are intending to have, then you underline, so that whoever is going through this work will understand that if there are 2 items as they are in this case, then that is signifying that they're done in square meters. Okay, so of course when if at all we'd be going now for the squaring now of the items, then you'll just multiply the 2 dimensions and you get your total area for this particular plan. The next step after you've entered your dimensions is always constant, and that step is now where you do your description. So you can always opt to do what we call bracketing, so that you describe your items within that particular bracket. Okay, so that is what you do next. Okay, you have it there, and then you describe. So you'd be wondering where do you normally get the dimension, the descriptions and so on. So the key item whenever you are doing bills of quantities is simple, because there are rules that are set aside on how you need to describe your items. Of course the rules guide you on how you arrive to your dimensions. That is one. The second aspect is that the rules are guiding you in terms of the key items to consider in your description. Okay, then that means that you don't have to get things from the blues, because items are already there, and of course descriptions are always geared towards describing exactly how you are going to do that particular work. So if the structural drawing doesn't show you into finality what you have or how you are going to go through it, then you just describe how exactly the works are done. Okay, so in this case we were talking about the slab, so we will just talk about vibrated reinforced concrete slab, or rather you would say a vibrated reinforced concrete class or mix. You can say class, okay, or grade, whichever way that you wish to refer to it. You can say class 25, then into bracket 1 to 2 to 4. That is now the ratio. Then you talk about in slab. So basically you've just described what you have in terms of that particular slab, and what is making it is the mix of those ingredients. So once you have that, then you are good to go. So you've seen how the area for a plan with recesses is calculated for the slab, and it's as simple as that. So there are those items that are also part of this one that we've been doing, and we just have to make confirm from our checklist what we have calculated, what we haven't calculated. So we've done blinding, we've done footing, we've done slab. We are now going to do BRC, then we move to DPM. As usual, from this channel we tend to show you what these items are, so that it's even more clear for you to understand. Okay, so once you understand what they mean, it's easier for you to even get them properly. So when you talk about BRC simply means British Reinforced Concrete, okay, which is now the reinforcement preferred for the slab that are laid on grade. Grade simply means now maybe you've made up the level, you've done the what we call the hardcore in this case. Then thereafter you do the blinding and you do DPM. Now DPM is the polythene. Okay, if you can look at this point, you have the polythene in that part, and when you see well properly, there is a BRC. Now this mesh on top of it. Okay, so this particular mesh is what we call the BRC. They are of different gauges or different strength regarding to depending on what the engineer has specified. So this particular BRC is measured in square meters. Okay, so when you do it in square meters, then there are those dimensions that you have to consider, especially after you've seen where it's going to be placed. Then it's easier for you to even trace exactly the areas in which you are going to use. So if it's done in square meters, then what you need to use are the dimensions that you've also used for the reinforced concrete slab, because basically they are sharing the scope, they are sharing the area of placement. So if after you've done your slab, you will apply the same area to do for the BRC as well. So how do you do that? You just combine that description in this particular point. Okay, so you just combine that description here with what we call an ampersand, and this is how you will place it. Of course you will see it from your screen. Okay, so if I zoom it in, it's even better for you to see. Then we'll talk about now the BRC. I told you that for these descriptions and taking off, these are what we call now the symbols or the denotations that you have are very, very much acceptable. So you just talk about BRC. Then you can always say the class or the type of BRC that you are applying and describe it fully, because that is what the rule is guiding us to do. When you look at our scope of our identification of the rules and how they are applicable, you look at number 17. It's done in square meters, and you get that from item number F17B. So if you are using the standard methods of measurement, going to F17B will give you that particular rule of how to measure the BRC. And then the items that you need to consider are the following. Check number 17. You see that? So the items that you need to consider are as listed there. Okay, so you just look at this is the one that we are talking about on this particular line. So this is the item that we are talking about, the BRC. Okay, and the BRC done in square meters, you check through what you have in this particular part. Okay, this is okay, the BRC is here, and when you look straight to the image at the right hand side of your screen, you can see it there, that particular mesh. Okay, that is what we refer to the BRC, done in square meters. Okay, so once you've noted it's done in square meters, then of course you've calculated your plan. Therefore the next step is simply to enter your dimensions. Dimensions have been entered under the slab, so you just continue with what you have, stating the type. Now these are the items that you shouldn't miss in your description. Stating the type, what type of BRC is it, stating the weight, okay, and the minimum extent of the side and end lamps. And of course you remember that the measurements here should be done net, and therefore you just measure the exact area in which it will be placed. So that is what the rule is telling us. So once you have that, you've already identified, yes, you can go on and state what it's weighing, maybe 2.22 kg per square meter and so on. So that is entirely depending on what has been specified for you to undertake by the structural engineer. So if it's not specified, then as usual you are expected as a quantity surveyor to make informed assumptions based on what you know and what is right. Okay, so once you've done that, then you move to the third item, and our third item from the taking off list that we are using here, which is our reference, that item we've just done the BRC. Now we've just done the BRC, then we go to DPM. So DPM, somebody will also refer to it as polythene sheeting, and this is basically to this is just basically a waterproofing method that prevents the rising damp from underground by capillary to wetten the slab, and also make the whole floor to become damp. So in that case, then we need to measure it because it's also a crucial item. Looking at the rule, which is always been guiding us up to this point at number 18, you can see where we have that particular item. The reference is item G97, and it's done in square meters. Okay, square meters. Then when it's less than 300 millimeters wide, you do it in meters. But if it's the girth is more than 300, and of course for this case you'll agree with me that it's greater than 300, and therefore you do it in square meters. Okay, square meters, as usual, we try to look at how the scope or what is looking like, which is going to help us to be able to decide. Also we'll be able to understand what exactly we mean by the DPM. So the black polythene sheeting that you see here, this is what we call the DPM. Okay, you might some may be 500 gauge, some may be 1000 gauge, depending on where you are and which type of polythene sheeting that manufacturers make in that particular part of the world you are in. So you do it in square meters. And just to show, this is, if you look at the dark polythene that you have polythene sheeting there, that is what we refer to as the DPM, and you do it in square meters. Okay, so once you've understood that, then we go on, and you'll notice that it's also sharing the same area for your slab. Therefore you are not going to do you are not going to enter another set of dimensions, because the dimensions that you have there are the same, and therefore you just combine those descriptions with you combine the descriptions under the same items that you have at this particular point. So we go on and do the same. So we just do with the ampersand and add another description. So you can say 500 gauge polythene sheeting. Okay, so that is as much as you can in terms of description. Of course you can go even further, but if you are wondering where would you get the descriptions and so on, you look at what is provided in the rules. At rule number G97A of the standard methods of measurements, you will be shown what exactly needs to be added in terms of your description. So there is always no need to worry in terms of where you are going to get what to input in your descriptions at no particular time. So we've done that, and the next thing that we are going to see is just to confirm our takeoff list and see which item is supposed to be coming next. Okay, so we've done quite a number. We've done formwork. This is DPM is what we've just done now, and I would like us to do the next item, which is now formwork to sides of footing. Okay, that is item number 13. Formwork to the sides of footing. So let's see what we have here. Yes, I understand that that needs to be classified under the next, in our next session, where we are going to cover now that item for the formwork and then we go to substructure walling and so on. So you can see we still have quite a number of items, but I would just leave it at this point up to where we've covered, so that you catch up with it and be ready for our next coverage that is going to be on formwork. I would like to reiterate that suppose you are a new viewer to this channel, this is the right channel that is going to give you the items that you need and items that you need to understand, especially matters to do with construction with surveying. So please before you leave, kindly just make a subscription to the channel, so that as soon as the videos are dropping in, you'll always be notified that the videos are ready, and you learn. From this point, you're going to even learn even more and more. Additionally, there are other services that I offer. From my description, you'll notice that I do private online tutoring. So if at all you need such private tutoring, always at your convenience, just reach me out on my phone number that is there, on my email, so that we organize a session. You get to learn and get to benefit from it. I also do bills of quantities, schedule of materials, schedule of labor, tendering at large. So all those, when you have any of them, then please do not hesitate, just reach out so that we would work together and you get to learn at large. So thank you very much for watching up to this point. Please watch, like, and share. I'll appreciate. Thank you so much. Bye bye till we meet again in our next session.